There we go. That's what I like to hear. For some reason, this week I really feel ready to hear that introduction song. Really gets the blood going. This is going to be a good week. We're focusing a lot on my favorite kind of game, classic FPSs, and that wasn't by design. It just sort of happened. I got a big bit about Ion Maiden, the new build engine game from 3D Realms. Also got some stuff about Quake, some stuff about classic Doom. Played a little out of the Park Baseball 19. Going to touch on that briefly. So let's talk about Battle of the Bits to kick things off. You guys remember FM Synth 2, the mixtape album that was available from Battle of the Bits? Not free anymore. Now it's $3. In its place is a new mixtape called Cheese Dance. So head over to battleofthebits.com. They got a link on the right for releases. Get yourself a copy of the Cheese Dance mixtape while it's free. This first one is going to be Little Theremin. And I believe the name of the track is Dancing Through the 90s. This is a bit more dancey than I'm used to playing on TCR, but this is a track that's got some merit, so bear with me. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. All right, I got some van casting that I want to go through this week, but some cool stuff happened that I want to get through while it's still fresh in my mind. The last couple days, I was able to do two things that I haven't done in a very long time. Number one, I got in touch with Dorabka, the Gaming Beast, and we got to play the original Quake online. All right, first of all, I haven't talked to Sean in a long time. Good old Dorabka. It's been a good bit, longer than I would have liked. I spotted him online playing Sacred 3, and we were hanging out. And when he was done with that, we played some Talisman, which Talisman's a game that he has always favored, and I've played some, but it didn't really click with me until just yesterday that happened. Yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. We played Talisman, and I got really into that, and that was good. And then when we got tired of that, we played Quake, and we played Quake on a co-op server. So we found a server that was running, that was empty. We got connected, and we were just going one by one through all these community-made maps. It was awesome. We must have burned through like 10 or 15 maps. So that was amazing. So thanks for that, Sean. Looking forward to doing that again. Also, after playing Talisman, I looked into buying a copy of the actual game to play with my kids. So I got into Talisman. I was even playing that earlier tonight. It's a good game. So those two things happened. So now that it's, Saturday night? It's Saturday night. I got some tea. I've got the Cheese Dance mixtape to go over. Let's go back to Monday and listen to the Monday Vancast. Now, I did a good bit of Vancasting that day. I did it to work and home from work, and it's a good thing I did that because after Monday, we ended up getting some snow, and there was a lot of working from home, a lot of being snowed in, and that sort of thing. So let's go back to before all that happened, when the future was bright. All right, you guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. It's a cold one today, Monday morning. It's the Vancast. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you played some video games, spent some time with your family. You know what it is. It is so cold. My fingers are cold holding this phone. And it seems weird because it's been nice all weekend, right? I have a feeling it'll warm up today when the sun comes up, but post-daylight savings time, you know, it's pitch black out right now, 6:20 in the morning. Just made a stop at the grocery store. Over the weekend, my family and I, we went to the thrift store, which I haven't been able to do in a while. I don't want to harp on this too much because I wanted to make a video about what we found there. So a lot of this you might be hearing a second time. But long story short, I found a board game, like a complete copy of Axis and Allies for $5. Oh, jeez, it was gorgeous. And I had to let it go because it's like, there's no room for this, and you don't have anybody to play with anyway, and it just kind of broke my heart a little bit. And I also found a CD-ROM copy of the game SWAT. You guys know SWAT? Police Quest SWAT. It was the one that was like all FMVs. I let that go as well, not because of having too many board games or anything like that, but I don't know if it would work because I have another Sierra CD-based game from around the same time called Battle of Antares. It just doesn't work. I don't know. CD-ROM era games, they're just difficult to get working. So I let that one go on the count of, I know it's for sale on digital distro. I'll just get it on GOG or Steam or something, and I know it'll work. But two things I would have loved to have owned that I couldn't have owned. This gigantic, oh my gosh, the board game was so big. Axis and Allies. I was trying to explain it to my son. He was like, this looks like Risk. I was like, it's a version of Risk, but you spend all weekend playing the same game. He's like, oh, okay. So that was my weekend, but I did manage to get a gigantic, not a gigantic, but a nice big fruit bowl that I got washed and I'm bringing to work. So I just made a stop and got some bananas and some grapefruits, so I can have some fruit at work. That way I don't gain back all the weight I lost dieting over the new year. Alright, I gotta get left here in a bit. Hang on, lane change, my man. This is a weird time of the morning. There's not a lot of cars out, but the ones that are, they want to stay 1 inch off your bumper. Alright, how we doing? I haven't taken this way to work in a while. Getting on the highway. Highway is especially dangerous, man. It's not like, I don't know. You get up to 60 miles an hour, you gotta leave a little bit more than 2 inches off my bumper. Hear all the time about huge accidents that happen on the highway. It's like people die out there, and it doesn't even make the paper anymore. Oh boy. Let's see. So, we had the St. Patty's Day sale over on GOG.com. I didn't pick anything up myself, but I did see there was a big sale. I kind of regret not picking anything up. I don't know, maybe if I'm lucky it'll still be on when I get to work. But I know Serious Sam, I think it was Serious Sam Classic, the first encounter, dropped down to like 60 cents or something like that. Oh my gosh. I hope if you're out there by now and you have any sort of digital distro accounts that you maintain, that you've got some sort of version of Serious Sam at this point. Because they're games that have gone on sale many, many times. I think I bought Serious Sam Complete, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, a long time ago. Back before I had the hardware to run the HD versions. So that was cool. So the original Serious Sam was on sale super cheap, amongst other games. It gets harder to track and remember what kind of stuff went on sale, because I gloss over the games that I own. So the more games that are in my collection, the less that I retain when I look at a sales sheet. It's like, okay, maybe Wing Commander was on sale, but I got Wing Commander already, so no point in remembering that one. What else did I actually play this weekend? Oh yeah, Doom mapping. That's been kicking up speed as of lately. So I figured out how to use custom textures. Not make custom textures, not quite that advanced yet. But I can go and I can download texture packs and I can use them in my levels. So last night I went to just see what was out there. Oh, excuse me. And there are complete texture packs for Quake 1, Shadow Warrior. I got both of those, and I got another one for Rise of the Triad. So Rise of the Triad, Shadow Warrior, and the original Quake. I can use all of those textures in my Doom levels now, which is pretty sweet. But those were three amongst a great many that were available. So alright, so be that as it may. I plugged in the Quake texture pack to a little map that I was working on, because what other texture pack would I use, honestly? I started working on a little hub room, a little outdoors type battle. And I gotta say, I mean, there's not much there in terms of clocking gameplay, but it's looking good so far. This is like, I don't know, I think you could do the whole thing in like 60 seconds or something. There's a hub world, and then there's a hallway that hooks around, and you go on top of a thing, and I don't know. But I'm starting to get a feel for the Doom Builder 2 software, as well as I can add custom things, right? I got one map that's got the beheaded dude from Serious Sam, and then I got another map that's got Quake 1 textures, right? And those are maps 1 and 2 in like my custom Doom episode. So that's cool. So that's a reality. I'm getting more comfortable with making doors. I don't know why doors are so complicated, but it's been one of the most complicated aspects of learning how to make maps is operating doors, creating doors, and making them do what you wanted them to do. So I still got things left to learn. I have to learn how to do lighting. The lighting options in Doom were extremely limited. Basically, you could cut... Oh, hang on. There we go. You could cut something into sectors, right? And each sector had its own lighting shade. So it wasn't quite like the Source engine where you could put down a light source and it would light up around it. If you wanted to like put a light down and then have it shine like a ray across the room, you would have to cut the room into sectors where that light would typically shine and then raise the brightness inside that sector. That's how lighting works in Doom. So, not terribly difficult, but it requires knowing how to quickly and easily change the brightness in a sector, because you end up doing it a lot. For example, one issue I ran into was I had this little room that was outside, and then I made these 2 buildings that you can go in, right? And I went to great lengths to make it so that the buildings looked like they were buildings. Because one issue that I ran into was you could see the door, you could see what looked like the front of a building, but it was like a piece of paper. You couldn't see around it. So I did all this extra redundant sectoring just for places that you can't walk to, but things that you could see, to make the places you could walk to feel more real. A lot of redundant sectoring. And then I made, so the two buildings that you can't go into have a bridge that go across from one to another. All right. And that bridge comes across several sectors that were already made for other reasons. All right, no problem. So rather than having one sector for a bridge, the bridge is cut into like 20 sectors, like a puzzle piece. I don't know. Maybe it seems pointless to go into this kind of detail, but the Doom map making is starting to make sense to me. So we'll see. The next things I want to conquer is, I've got my own, I can make my own levels, right? I want to be able to replace the title screen and help screen, right? That's always the sign of a worthwhile mod. When you download a mod in Doom and the title screen is different when you open it up. That's always like, yeah, this guy took the time to figure it out. I also want to be able to change the music. That's another thing. Another staple of a bad mod is when you open it up and everything's the same. The music's the same, title screen's the same, all that stuff's the same. So we'll see. We'll touch base on that in another week. Maybe I'll dump those. If I can get something playable, maybe I can dump those together and then drop the file on Patreon for the Patreon subscribers somehow. I think that might be cool, because it's not ready for public consumption. But it would be nice to get some beta testing feedback. But alright, that's Doom. I played Doom. I think my Steam copy of Doom is up to like 32, maybe 30, somewhere between 30 and 35 hours. Which is cool, because I've had Doom 2 in my Steam library for many years, but it's always had like 1, maybe 2 hours in it, because all my major Doom time went into, MS-DOS Doom when it was new and hot. That was the era when I'd really play Doom for hours and hours on end. Alright, what are we at, 11 minutes? Alright, I'm about to get on the highway, and it's pretty dangerous out here this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and call that it. The rest of you guys, I am going to shoot you back to the comfortable Panzer Studios, where I would much prefer to be right now. But okay, while I'm going up the on-ramp, if I was back home, what game would I be playing? I would be playing Doom 2. That's what I'd be playing. I'm too tired to create my own levels, but I'd go back into map repositories and get something good and just play and try and learn something. That's what I would do this morning. Either that or play Contra. I don't know why, but Contra. Okay, have a good one, guys.
All right, so I made it to work, did my shift, and on the way out, something struck me that was worth talking about. So there's a follow-up to that Vancast Monday afternoon. It's a lot shorter. I think this only runs about 4 minutes. All right, let's go to the van.
All right. I don't usually do 2 Vancasts in a day. It's now Monday afternoon. I'm driving home. There was something that cropped up in my notes today that I wanted to go over. There's a game called Ion Maiden that's floating around the Steam market right now. Ion Maiden. And and this came to my attention just flipping around, doing what I normally do. And here's the deal: when it comes to first-person shooters, I like the classic first-person shooters. This is my favorite video games ever, right? When I was a kid, I latched on to Shadow Warrior. I liked Duke Nukem 3D. Shadow Warrior I picked out in particular because my friends and I learned how to do the level maker early on, right? So we learned about the build engine inside and out. Those games are great. Shadow Warrior is an amazing game. Duke 3D is an awesome game. Blood I know is an old favorite. I only played it a little bit older in life, but I like the build engine games, right? They're amazing games. So Ion Maiden is a build engine game, a new one, that apparently the people involved with it are like ex-3D Realms guys. Either that or it flies under the 3D Realms banner. I don't have it in front of me, so I have to go check, but we're talking about an authentic build engine experience in 2018. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's $20 now, which I don't often pay $20 for a game, and it's early access. So what is it? So early access for a build engine game. What would early access mean in 1999? In this case, it means it's essentially what we would used to equate to the shareware version. You got one episode. Is $20 worth for one episode? I don't know. I've really been weighing back and forth in my head because I want to get this game, man. Shadow Warrior was so good. It was so good. Duke 3D, oh man. The build engine at its finest makes amazing games. Now, just to be clear, there were some terrible build engine games out there as well, but based on the trailer, this looked like it's going to be higher up in the build engine food chain, which should be awesome. So I'm on my way home now. I'm not picking it up today. This is not going to be a today type purchase. But in the coming week, I'm seriously considering... Hang on a second, drive time. Hang on. This is a segment we call Let's Not Get in an Accident. All right. Yeah, so in the coming week, I'm seriously considering picking up Ion Maiden. And what's interesting is that the money that I would be using for Ion Maiden is money that would otherwise previously have been going to the next season DLC for Street Fighter V. So maybe Street Fighter V is starting to lose its grip on me. I don't know. But I want to just jump on the horn and talk about this Ion Maiden game while it was still fresh in my head. Seeing the build engine in action in the trailer was just huge for me. I don't know. It was. I'm almost afraid to dig deeper because I think I might end up being disappointed. It seems like there's a lot of games that are out there right now that are trying to recapture this classic PC FPS type era. A lot of games are out there right now trying to do it. Not many are actually getting there. Merger tried to do it. Intrude 3D tried to do it. So maybe this will do it better. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right, what do we... just about 4 minutes. I'm going to call that it. We'll keep this one short. All right, back again at the comfortable Panzer Studios. I'm sitting pretty with nice warm hot tea. Those work days behind me. So let's go back to the Battle of the Bits mixtape. This is the Cheese Dance mixtape. We're looking at, how many tracks are on this thing? 12 tracks, but it's much more dance, Groove-tron sort of long songs as opposed to chip tunes. This track is from Them Not You, and it's called Dynamite Cheese. It's track 6 on the Cheese Dance mixtape. You can head over and get yourself a copy of the zip file. Get a hold of the compilation before it ends up with a price tag on it. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
All right, back again. So this is the part of the show where I just take a quick minute to thank the patrons. This is a Patreon-sponsored show, and I don't have much for these guys. I just started toying around with some Patreon-exclusive videos, but there's not much there yet. I did like a quick Quake outtake. They also get the show as soon as it's produced. So tonight, Saturday night, I'll be putting the show up for the patrons, and then it goes up for everybody on Monday morning. And then finally, I read their names in sort of a hall of distinguished gentlemen here on Tiger Claw Radio. And they are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Six Health of Fury, and the Cartridge Brothers. So thanks to all you gentlemen who are giving of your resources to help TCR come back every week. It's thoroughly appreciated. All right, so let's do this. I do have a little bit more van casting for you. This is Tuesday, so this is the day following well, let's call it what it was. It was a geek out Monday morning. It was a huge geek out, and thank goodness for the geek outs because it means I'm still feeling it here on TCR. All right, let's go to the van.
Oh boy, van casting again. I know I'm in trouble, boys and girls, because it's only Tuesday morning and I feel like I'm spent for the week. It was 60 degrees outside yesterday. 60. The kids were out there playing without jackets on and everybody was just having a great time. And now it's pouring rain. I don't know exactly what temperature is, but it feels really cold. And it's supposed to snow today. I don't know, guys. I can't wrap my head around it. So if it snows today and tomorrow, that means next week when spring break is on, people will be taking their spring breaks with snow on the ground. Maybe it could happen. I don't know. All right, let's talk some video games. So there's two things: Fortnite and bundles. Let's do Fortnite first. So last night I got together. Oh, hang on. I got together on Discord with an old friend of mine, and we played some Battle Royale Fortnite, which is very popular. It's all the rage. But, oh god. But what made it worth worth bringing up on the air was that it's got cross-platform play, which is something that I don't know why it's kind of taken this long to come to fruition. But my friend plays on the Xbox One. He's got carpal tunnel pretty severely, so playing on the PC is not an option for him. And I played on the PC because I built the Panzer, and I got a functioning computer, so that's how we did it. We got on Discord, and we played, which was awesome. It worked well. We got, let's see, he's really good at the game. I'm pretty new at it. I've played Fortnite a couple times with some of the guys at the office, but I've always played H1Z1, which on paper is exactly the same game, but plays very, very different. So we played duos, and we got all the way to the end. We were both alive, and we faced off against the leading team. So 4 people left, and 2 enemies, 2 opposing people. So we got down to the showdown, and I got gunned down like in open air, right? But they didn't kill me, but I was gunned down. So my character was crawling, but more or less useless at that point. You come to a crawl, and then if you have a teammate who can revive you, then you're back in the game. So I was crawling, and I managed to crawl behind some rocks, so they couldn't finish me off. And then the opposing team closed in, and it was them against my buddy, and they ran past me a couple of times. I think they were trying to use me as bait, or maybe they just didn't focus fire on me because I wasn't a threat at that point. But I hung on through the game, like through that entire firefight, and then they just swept through and took us out. It was pretty fun. I had a good time, I must say. So that's Fortnite. Very, very popular. Very. It's definitely an imperfect experience. There's certain aspects of it that make me feel like it's appealing to casuals in a big way. It has this cartoony graphic style that we saw in like TF2. Fortnite to me is a game that's populated by dime store TF2 characters. Like, that's my opinion, but I don't know. Not a terrible game. So this morning I woke up, got up to my office. It was about 5, like normal. Threw on the water, sat in my chair, got myself a cup of, what was I drinking? I've been drinking this tea called Morning Thunder that I got when I was out on a date with my wife. So I had some Morning Thunder, which is like tea, but it's like black tea, standardized black caffeinated tea. So not nearly the punch of a cup of coffee, but something. So I was drinking that and just poking around, and I went to Fanatical. Well, there are a couple of bundles that I saw that were worth it. The big one is over at, I believe it's Indie Gala. They've got 3 out of the 4 Blaze Blue games, as well as River City Melee and River City Cross Country, all bundled together for like $8 or $9, which is another one of these bundles that's like, this is an amazing deal. I have every single one of these games, but it's an amazing deal. I paid $10 for River City Melee. I felt like I did okay. Just that one game. But there were a couple of bundles on Fanatical, not nearly as nice, not as star-studded as that one, but the kind where you're looking at 6 or 7 games that are all just garbage and with like 1 or 2 gems in it. This one had the Tropico 4 Tropico 4 and all the DLC. which I've had Tropico 4 forever, but I never bought even a single piece of DLC. So you're looking at like 8, maybe 9 different packs of DLC. So that appealed to me. And then there was another side-scrolling game in it that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head, because it wasn't a game I was familiar with previously, but I was looking at the trailer, and there was it was like a Castlevania kind of knockoff. I was like, all right, that looks pretty cool. And that bundle was, I think, $1, maybe $1.99. So I was like, all right, $1.99 for all the Tropico 4 DLC, and then whatever else pads the bundle. And there were a couple other things in it, like I knew I already had, like that game Bedlam, which is a first-person shooter that wants so desperately to be Quake 2. There was a game called Z, which is like an old-school RTS game from the CD-ROM era. I would put it at like maybe 1998, 1999, that time period. Games I already had, so Steam codes that are going to go down in my book. Should I come across anybody who's trying to build a Steam collection and doesn't have them? That was my morning. It was good times. Alright, so let's do this the way I'm wrapping every Vancast right now. If I was back at the apartment, at the house, at the studio, at the mansion, what would I be playing right now? Probably Z, which is a weird answer for me. I've had it in my Steam library for years. I even found a hard copy of it in the thrift store, and I took a picture of it and posted it online, like in the community hub. But I've never fired it up even once, and now I have an extra copy. I looked at a trailer this morning. It looks like pretty standard RTS fare. Based on the few images I saw, it looks a lot like several games I have. But if I was home and I was at my computer with time to burn, I'd be installing that now. I don't know, maybe that day might come in the near future, maybe not. Well, alright, boys and girls, I wrapped it up for this Vancast.
Here we are, Saturday night, and I never did end up sitting down and playing Z. I'm pretty sure we did get some snow, that's for sure. And it is now spring break officially, and there's still a little snow out on the ground, so I got my ideal conditions of a snowy spring break. Although, now that the snow has stopped falling, the sun is out with a vengeance, and it won't last much longer. Alright, boys. It is 38 minutes and 30 seconds into Tiger Claw Radio. I'm looking forward to digging into the fail bag this week. I've got an audio comment from Balzac. Love my audio comments. Oh my goodness, love my audio comments. And I've got some comments from past episodes, so I can tell some of you out there who listen typically are catching up on old stuff, which is great. That's one of the things I love about the format we have now, where TCR goes up on YouTube. They stay up. All right. Podomatic I've done for a long time, but on Podomatic the MP3s roll, so there's only the last 3 or 4 maybe episodes that were put up. But YouTube, it's there, it's not going anywhere. If you're listening to an episode from 8 months ago, that's why it's still there. So you can catch up on your own pace, or pick and choose, or whatever it is you like. So when I say fail bag, now I'm gonna have to start just reading the most common or the most recent comments across all the Tiger Claw empire. Anyway, let's see what Balzac has to say. All right, take it away, Balzac.
Okay, so I just caught up with the latest TCRs, so I want to comment on a few things before I get to a question of mine. First of all, that story about the surgeon listening to the real Slim Shady before he was about to, open you up, that was pretty good. And I think I would be pissed too, but hey, it could have been much worse. He could have been listening to Kesha or that Frozen song, and oh man. Anyways, and also I always keep hearing on the podcast that you want to get into Sega Saturn, just the Sega Saturn in general, but you don't really want to do that and go into that endeavor because of the overpriced games or having to deal with the modding it in order to play the burnt games. Well, there's this thing that it's called a Rhea or a Phoebe. Just look it up on Google. Just type in one of those and then Saturn after those, and then you'll probably get it. It's you just rip out the CD drive, or plug it out, and then you plug this thing in, and then it's literally just has an SD card slot at the end of it, and then you just plug in your SD card with your ISOs, and you can literally just play Sega Saturn games digitally through that, device. And I was thinking about getting one because I have the Dreamcast one and it works really well. Well, the Dreamcast one I'm talking about, but I never really wanted to get the Saturn one, mostly because the factors of I don't have a Saturn and I don't really care for the Saturn that much. But look into that if you really want to get into it, because I know I wouldn't really want to pay for all those overpriced games, because I think each good Saturn game at least costs on average $150. And if you want something like Panzer Dragoon Saga, that's gonna definitely cost you probably double that, maybe even triple. And just look into that. And I guess I'll end this with a question. Opinions on Final Fantasy, PS1 Final Fantasy, so Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. I'm just asking because I recently got 9 recently, and I got 7 a few months ago, both on PS4, and they're fun games. I really like them. I think personally, that era of Final Fantasy games are my favorite because, I don't know, the PS1 versions PS1 is appealing to me for some reason. I like the models and how it was, because the previous ones that came before that, the previous Final Fantasies, they just seemed too archaic and slow to me. And then the ones after that, some of them could be fun, but they just feel like they kind of lost something after they transitioned from the PS1 onwards for those titles. And I'm just hoping now they could release 8 on PS4, so we're going to have all those 3 games on one system instead of, having just 7 and 8, 9, and then 7 and 9 and not having the rest of them. So that's about it. So I'll see you on the next podcast.
Oh, man, Balzac. What a great audio comment. We got a lot of stuff to unpack here. Let's start with let's start with surgery. If I had been rolled in on the gurney to let it go, and let it go was what I would have gotten up and just been like, no, I'll take my kidney, or I'll take my gallstone, thanks. So you talked about the Sega Saturn Rhea and Phoebe, which are 2 mod kits. You can replace the laser assembly with an SD reader. I did some light research. It looks like there's a little bit of point soldering involved, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Very doable. But the components themselves are well, they're rare and they're expensive. There's somebody who builds them and sends them out, and you can't just up and buy one. You have to queue up, and pre-orders, I'm pretty sure, are locked out. Now, to be fair, this was research I did 3 days ago, and I don't have any notes in front of me, but I looked up those things. They do exist. It seems like it would be awesome. Get an HD SD card, stick it in this. You'd be playing ROMs, but you would have the OG hardware, and you would actually pop the top on the Sega Saturn, put the SD card in, close the top, and then play the ROM. I don't know. That seems more. That seems more. Just a tad more authentic, even than playing a ROM on an EverDrive. It seems awesome. It kind of sucks that I didn't know about that before, because I did have a Sega Saturn where the disc assembly was just off and it was causing the discs to scrape. And I had a Sega Saturn a long time ago where the discs just wouldn't spin. So it seems like either one of those 2 machines would have been a good candidate. But I gave up foolishly. But these days, I think of the Sega Saturn the way Bill Burr thinks of yachts. It's not the best thing to own one. It's the best thing to know somebody who owns one and show up with a 6-pack and be like, hey, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a while. You still got that Sega Saturn hanging around? What do you say? Let's play, huh? That's me, and that's the Sega Saturn. But I did appreciate learning about the Phoebe and the Rhea. If they become more available, I would consider buying one of these mod kits and just holding on to it until and getting the system after the fact. But we'll see. I don't know. You also talked about the PS1 Final Fantasy games. So what do I think about PS1 Final Fantasy? All right. The PS1 was, in my opinion, the greatest era for the RPG. Now, a lot of people my age are going to say it's the 16-bit era. I'm sorry. No. The PS1 had the best RPGs, okay? The Final Fantasy games were at their peak. Final Fantasy VII made the PS1. Come on, you remember the hysteria? Balzac, I don't know how old you are, but if you're old enough, you seem like somebody who's close to my age. If you think back, Final Fantasy VII was the video game. It was like the first time I remember seeing a video game that was so popular. People were wearing like t-shirts that had the little Final Fantasy like blue meteor on it, and I was like, oh man, that's so cool. I think there's like, I'm not saying it's the first video game t-shirt. I mean, there were like Pac-Man t-shirts forever and a day, but this was the first time I was like, oh, I would see somebody's t-shirt. Oh, that's the game, dude. He's wearing a Final Fantasy shirt. We got Final Fantasy VII when we got our PlayStation back in the day. What a magical time that was. I would play, my brother and I would take turns. He would play for a set amount of time, then he would go to a save spot, and then I would pick up and play my save until I got to that same save spot, and then we would switch. That lasted for about half the first disc, which was a long time for something like that, but that's great. So many great games on the PS1. At Chrono Cross, Legend of Legaia, which was the game that brought forth the DualShock to the RPG, Suikoden, Xenogears, Vagrant Story, come on. Wild freaking Arms? Wild Arms was on the PlayStation 1. I still have Wild Arms 2. I got it for $5. Would love to have that first game again. Dragon Warrior. I have 8 written in my notes, but that's not true, is it? It was Dragon Warrior 7. And then after that, we went back to calling them Dragon Quest again. Dragon Warrior 7 is on my get list for sure. I got to get it now that PS1 games are dropping in price. It's like last time I checked, it's like $30 for a copy of Dragon Warrior 7. Oh my gosh. When that game came out, all anybody could talk about was the play clock, right? 170 hours to beat this game, Dragon Warrior 7. You don't even get control and really do a battle until an hour in this game. Oh man. They could charge extra for a game like that because you knew you were getting what you paid for. I got Star Ocean 2. That's a cool game. That's PS1 at its finest. A great double disc, multi-disc game, something they weren't afraid to do back in those days. The Persona series. People think that first Persona game is hokey. I like that game. That's the game I remember the fondest, was watching my friend play the original Persona and then borrowing Persona 2 shortly after. Those were cool games. I would like to play those again. That's a game I think that went on without me, though. That series continued on, and I kind of lost touch with it. The last game I remember paying any serious attention to was Persona 2. And we're up to what, Persona 5 now? Persona 4, something like that? Oh, man. Those PS1 RPGs. So what do I think of the Final Fantasy games? Final Fantasy 9, the one that you mentioned, that's my favorite of the bunch, I think, because it's the only one I personally bought that game when it was new. Brand new. Like, you guys know me in video games. I buy them to play, not to collect. It's always been that way. So in those days, when a game came out and it was good, I would wait for a year, and then I would buy it when the price would go down. But not Final Fantasy 9. That was a game I bought fresh out of the gate. Oh, man, it was so good. It was so good. I couldn't believe it. It's one worth owning, for sure. I haven't bought it on Steam because I still have it on PlayStation. And to be honest, if I make the decision to sit down and play through Final Fantasy IX, it's going to be on that PlayStation. It's not going to be on Steam. Great game. I got the strategy guide too. I love the old print strategy guides. I would love to have those strategy guides for the original, not the original, but for Final Fantasies 7 and 8. I would want those strategy guides as well. I'm forever grateful that the guy that I had to sell my PlayStation games to in the early 2000s, he didn't like RPGs, right? He didn't like them at all. So he was like, I know you got a big collection. I'll keep one, just in case I come around and want to try one. And then I just kept all the rest of my RPGs. And the one he kept was Final Fantasy VIII. So I lost my black box copy of Final Fantasy VIII all those years ago, but the rest of them I still have. 7, 9, RPG Maker. Oh man, good times. Enjoy that game, man. It's a good one. It really is. While we're on the subject of RPGs on the PS1, you guys know the first video game that I ever bought from eBay was an RPG for the PS1. It was a game called Vandal Hearts. Vandal Hearts was like it was a tactical strategy game. Think Final Fantasy Tactics. What do you call a game like that? Strategy game? When I think strategy game, I usually think of like a war game, but one of those types of games. A lot like Final Fantasy Tactics. But I remember anytime a unit would get killed, blood would just squirt out into the air as they screamed in agony, which was awesome, especially when you killed something that you wouldn't think of as having blood, like a skeleton. If you killed a skeleton, blood would just shoot up into the air out of their neck. Good times. That's another one I would love to have again. I don't have Vandal Hearts anymore. All right. So now we're going back to YouTube. Let's take a look at the YouTube comments. We got one for What's on My Shelf. He writes, it's not objectionable to waste podcast time checking website sales. Now adding heavy typing and an echoing cheap mic, that's just too much. Just kidding. Terrifying Jerry has that handled whenever he makes a podcast. You're right. He does a far better job than I do in some of those instances. As far as Jerry is concerned, I would rather take poor editing and more episodes, because Jerry does. I will never miss an episode of the Mondo Cool Cast. I just wish there were more of them. He puts them out slowly these days, but they still come out. Desm 101. Always good to hear from you, my man. He's following up on last week. We talked a little bit about light gun games, and then after the fact, I decided to name the podcast Light Gun. It was something really cool. The light gun games on the Nintendo. That was something I was still thinking about when the podcast was done with. So here's what Desmond 101 has to say. He writes, some other NES light gun games are Gunshoe, Laser Invasion, Gotcha, Shooting Range, To the Earth. That was the game I was trying to think of. Freedom Force, and games like Bayou Billy that let you play the levels with the light gun. I think Operation Wolf was also a light gun game, but I can't remember. Wanted to let you know, I think your content is awesome and deserves a lot more views. Great topics and discussion. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Also, definitely interested in hearing your chiptune mix. I recently made a mix of classic chiptunes if you want to listen. I somehow missed this, Desm, because when you left your comment, you put your YouTube link on the 5th line. So it did that show more, show less thing, and this was under the fold. So I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing this now for the first time. So guys and gals, we got a 1 hour, 13-minute mix of chiptunes that Desmond put together, and it looks like. Did you make this yourself? Did you make this? I recently made. This is my boy Desmond. He's got. Here he is with dual turntables. Wow, man, that is an impressive kit. All right, so the first thing I want to see is, are these actual vinyl-equipped turntables, or is it like those I don't even know the word for them, like just meant for scratching MP3s? Pretty sweet sounding too. All right, guys, I'm putting a link to this. If you're catching TCR on YouTube, drop down to the description. There will be a link to the video he's talking about. I don't know if there's an MP3 available. We'll have to look. Yeah, he's got it on Google Drive. So awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I love chiptunes, dude. I'll be checking this out. I put on chiptunes a lot when my children are around, because they typically don't have. There's not a lot of cursing in chiptune music. Let's be straight up. So it's good for the little kids. My daughter is 4. My son is 8. So chiptunes are right where it's at for those two. I got to turn this off. I'm listening to the music now and not doing my show. But that's cool. That sounds good. All right. I got thrown off my rotation a little bit. Sendu just left a comment, like just now while I was recording. So thanks for that, Sendu. Let's finish up what I have listed here for last week. That was Desm, and then Balzac left his audio comment, and that's how we got that. So thanks to you three gentlemen for your comments. Always good to hear about the latest what's going on. You know, it's a small show. This is where we, you know, I can hear you when you reach out to me. It's not like you're reaching out to, I don't know, some megastar on Twitter who has 1,000 tweets a second or whatever. And on that note, I was trying Twitch recently, right? I had a Twitch stream a couple nights ago. I was just playing some Quake. You know, Quake's been getting a lot of attention from me lately. And I had, you guys know Retro Kaiser, our friend Kaiser. He was on it. And he was like, dude, you're not going to get popular on Twitch. Popular is not what I'm after. This is my social networking. I don't have a Facebook. My social networking is here. It's on YouTube. It's the podcast. This is what I like to do. And I've got, last week, I've got 18 views on last week's podcast, and I got 5 downloads from Podomatic. That's a good week for me. That's a successful week. I know that my show made it to somebody's headphones, somebody's car stereo out there. So we did it, guys. We did all right by me. All right, let's see what else we've been, what other comments we've received lately. Light Studios, Sendu, my man, we've got to get you, we got to get you on the Monster Cast, man. We got to set up a time and make it happen. So Sendu writes, I don't know what episode this is, 225, a couple weeks ago, he writes, of course, iPhones don't hold the market like they used to. Androids are better. Yes, my man, yes they are, but that's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to be objective in this case because I've never really cared much for Apple. He writes, one of my 3 Saturns has that problem where the disc doesn't spin. Sometimes you can get them to work by moving around the eye in the middle first. The Sega Saturn is the most interesting system I own. Yep, that happened to my old Saturn, my very first one. And he writes, wrong. Sonic Classic Heroes has both Sonic 1 and 2 special stages. Hit me up sometime, I'll teach you all about Sonic. Wow, Sonic shots fired, my man. You know, Sonic Heroes has got a lot of content in it. And if you fire it up stock and you just pick, the bonus stages are their own toggle, right? I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free. So I usually just toggle the standard stages. So I think they default to Sonic 1. But if you just say, okay, give me the Sonic 2 stages, it's going to still give you those Sonic 1 special stages, unless you go in and change it. So the Sonic Heroes got a lot of stuff on it. It's a great ROM hack, and I was lucky to get a copy of it for $6. Not $6. It wasn't even that much. It was like $4. It's kind of a bummer that it doesn't save. I've noticed that a lot in repros lately. My copy of Some Usual Day with Super Mario, that also does not save, which is a drag, but, you know, what are you going to do? Desmond left a comment on the old Street Fighter video. Street Fighter for MS-DOS. He says, I love these obscure DOS ports. So many oddities out there, which you don't hear about much, probably because of the questionable quality. You know what, Desmond? What I find weird about the MS-DOS games is you can see a clear difference in the way they looked at that market. See, I don't know when that game came out, but let's say late 80s. To have a computer in the late 80s, it was like a mega expensive spreadsheet machine, and they knew it wasn't going to get in the hands of kids, or at least not very likely. So what the companies would do, most companies would just outsource the PC port. If you look at a lot of the Nintendo games that made it to PC, like Commando or something like that, you would see the company that owns it and then some unknown developer's name underneath it. And that's what happened with Street Fighter, which is why it's a bizarre game. I think the most well-known instance of this happening is the Mega Man games. There was a Mega Man and Mega Man 3 on the computer, and they were made by a company called, guys help me out, what is it? High Tech Solutions, I think. Something that sounds like that, if that's not it. It wasn't a Capcom game. Capcom didn't make a PC game in 1989 or 1991 or whenever those games came out. They had somebody else do it. Now they wouldn't do that. Now when that happens, because I think Ubisoft did that, now when that happens, everyone knows about it and they're pissed. And that's a difference between games on the computer or PC ports in the late 80s, early 90s versus today. Demaz, who I haven't heard from in a while, writes, what episode is this? 225? Check out James and Mike Monday's recent video on Brutal Super Mario. It looks amazing. It especially has unique bosses made from scratch. One of the coolest ROM hacks I've seen. You know what? I saw that video. It was very good. They did a good job. It's kind of interesting on those the James and Mike videos where James Rolfe, you can tell he's the actor. And he kind of takes a backseat to Mike Matei. Mike becomes the star of the show on James and Mike Monday, because you can tell when they just start shooting about video games, Mike's the guy who knows. It's not James, it's Mike. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed the Brutal Super Mario video. That, and also check out the one where Mike Matei shows off his NES ROM hacks. That's a cool video. All right, what else we got? Desmond101 writes, Coltrane is probably my favorite of the jazz... I'm reading this wrong. I got to read these comments slower because I get tripped up and it's bad. Coltrane is probably my favorite of all the jazz greats. That record is excellent. Some others I've been playing a lot lately are Wes Montgomery and Cannonball Adderley. Awesome, man. That was a really... shocking comment, to be fair, because John Coltrane on a video game channel, to me, was like, I was holding up that Coltrane record, and if you watch that video, what was going through my mind when I recorded that was, nobody gives a hot crap in the Sahara Desert about this record. But I wanted to make it anyway, because that's what I was interested in. So it was really cool to get a little feedback. Much appreciated. What else did we get? We got some really good comments this week. A guy with an unrecognizable name. I can't tell what it is. It looks like it's backwards, like he used special characters, but I'm sorry. He's got a picture of a skull for his name. He left this comment 3 days ago. I made a video about 10-year-old memory card data. And he writes, wish I still had my old memory cards. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug and it brings a smile to my face. I recently purchased an original PS2, SCPH39001, favorite model for me, to scratch the itch. Still remember when I got one on release, but one day it ended up giving me a red flashing light. Lasted a few years. Kept it for a while but never got around to fixing it or figuring out what was wrong with it and traded it off to a family member. Wish I didn't. Don't ever remember what happened to my PS1 though. Put it up when I got my PS2, since it was backwards compatible, so I might have sold that off at a garage sale or something equally dumb. I forgot long boxes were a thing for PS1 games though, so thanks for jogging my memory. I used to have Jumping Flash in a long box and a couple others, but I can't recall what they were. Definitely brings me back and realize that the past 30 years of my life had gone by too fast. Thanks again for the trip. I gotta leave that guy a response. That's a really nice comment. Let's talk about long box games for a minute. Long box games are the coolest thing in the world. So when you bought a CD brand new, or at least this is something I remember, what year was this? So my older brother and I used to listen to the radio, and we would try and on Tuesdays our local radio station, DC 101, which is like a big East Coast radio station. It's our K-Rock. All right. On Tuesdays they would do this promotion called 2 for Tuesday, right? And every artist would be, 2 songs of theirs would be played in a row. And if they missed one and they played only one song from a band, then you could call the station. And if you were the first one, then you got a voucher for a free CD at like some CD store downtown. Twice we got this. My brother got it once. I got it another time. To put it into perspective, when we made this happen, the album I got was it was from The Offspring. I can't think of the name of the album right now.
But you know what? We're going to find out. It was like their second big album. Offspring discography. What was the name of that album? It was called X-Nay on the Ombre, and it came out in 1997. So this must have been, about that, 97. Yeah, and we went down there, and they would take the CDs, right? And it wasn't like, if you think back to Best Buy like a few years ago, when they still sold CDs, and they would just be, the CDs and the thing, you flip through them. No. The CD would be inside of like a case that was like twice as long as the standard CD box. That's what CDs were in the stores in 1997. So when when PlayStation came along, the long box game looked pretty natural in a place that sold CDs. Didn't last long though. I just remember seeing Twisted Metal, the first Twisted Metal game, getting that on a standard CD, it wasn't I didn't get it. It wasn't a greatest hits game, but I got like the standard CD case, black label, but it wasn't a long box either. And then much later in life, I found out that had a long box. So we're talking about a game that's got a long box, it's got a black label standard release, and it's got a greatest hits. And that blew me away. Those long box games, to me, I don't know what it is. I love them. Wish I had more. I've got Chessmaster 3D. That's the only long box game I have right now. Yeah, I gotta leave that guy a reply. Not anybody I recognize. Let's see, what else we got? Let's see. 4 days ago, Death Adder wrote something in my Chessmaster video, which is another one I was like, this is destined to get no views. Death Adder writes, I want to collect NES games just so I can be like Jerry Terrifying and call them Nintendo tapes. It's just such a fun thing to say. I used to play a lot of chess with my dad as a kid. It is good. It's good times. Yeah, it is. I like chess. I played chess with my dad too. One of my last memories of my old man before he passed away was him asking to play chess, and he said the words, "I challenge you to a game of chess." He said that, I challenge you. But being a kid, I couldn't be troubled with anything in my life that wasn't Nintendo, so I turned him down, and he died shortly after that. So yeah, chess is a special game to me. It's very special. I've been working hard to pass it on to my children. My son locked on it. He's good at it. My daughter, she's 4. She's not quite there yet. She's interested, but she's 4, so what are you gonna do? Temez has one more from 4 days ago. I beat Out 4-2. I liked it a lot. And at that time, DLC was neat and new, but I bought a box version. I didn't download it. So if you bought a box version, you must have registered it somehow. Or was it like you bought the box version and so you couldn't get into the DLC? I don't know. That's neat though. Yeah, boxed video games for the PC are not really common anymore, are they? It's kind of a shame. I like my big box PC games. One of the jeez, I don't want to tell this story again. I had a lot of big box PC games. I'm still bitter that my mother threw them out. I've got a good collection now though. And a lot of that is courtesy of a cross between finding awesome things at the thrift store and some serious, like, hardcore generosity from my friends. I'm looking at my collection right now. I can see things where friends of mine have dug deep and provided games that I'll hold on to for many years. Like my German Command and Conquer, Der Tiberium Conflict, and my hologram cover Civilization 2, the multiplayer gold edition, my friend, a game so treasured that when I went to the used bookstore, I had to pick up a second copy of the manual so I would have one I could use and abuse. Good times. Light Studio says, come visit me in Ohio. We'll have a Sega Saturn night. That'd be fun.
I looked into that a little bit. I got family in Cleveland, but I think Dayton is about 4 hours away. So I have not found myself in the Dayton area, in ever. So, but that would be a lot of fun. We should have. This is what we should do, Sendu. So you and Jerry are both in the southern Ohio area. We've got Shintai in Florida. We've got me in the East Coast in Maryland. We should look at a map and triangulate the position and find a state or a city right in the middle, and then we should all drive to that city and have a secret society conference in a hotel room where we get a small hotel room for like 2 nights or more, and we bring our own TVs and video games, and we just blow it out, man. Just blow it out in this hotel room. Video games, pizza, whatever. That would be it, man. You and me, Sendu. Bring the Saturn. I was gonna say I'll bring the games, but that ain't happening. Not Sega Saturn games. I don't have any of those. Not any good. Not any ones I'm willing to travel with anyway. Actually, you know what? Don't bring the Saturn. I'm afraid something will happen to it. That is a fragile system, my friend. All right, let's see. We are 1 hour and 12 minutes in. So listen, whatever's brought you here, I'm having a good time tonight. I feel like we had some good podcasting this evening. I hope you're doing good in your life. I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. I really am. Keep at it, and I'll see you next Monday. Tripping over my words a lot tonight. Have a good week. Make it a good week. I tried to fuse those together in my head, and have it a good make. All right, I'm out of here.